Imagine a modern logistics company for a second.
Okay.
So the warehouse is it's packed with automated retrieval systems. You've got software routing all the delivery trucks using, real-time traffic data.
Right. Highly optimized.
Exactly. And quarterly output is literally the highest it has ever been. On paper, it is a machine of pure efficiency.
Yeah.
And yet, the CEO of this company is sitting on some morning financial news show, visibly sweating and complaining about the severe, crippling labor shortage.
Oh, yeah. We see that all the time.
Right. It feels like a massive contradiction. How can an organization that is seemingly doing more work than ever with more technology than ever claim they simply don't have enough people to keep the lights on?
It's a paradox, honestly, and it's one that we are seeing across almost every single industry right now. We have these incredibly sophisticated financial and operational dashboards.
Yeah, the metrics.
Right, the metrics. And the dashboard flashes red, and the executive points to a single number and says, well, there it is. The problem is we are down 5 headcounts.
And we just believe it.
We do. We accept that diagnosis without a second thought.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today we are looking at 2 really fascinating analytical articles, part of the OSL-01 series.
Really good material in there.
Yeah, and we're using them to completely deconstruct this phrase you hear on every single earnings call. The labor shortage.
No.
Our mission today isn't to give you, basic management advice or fix your company's hiring pipeline. We want to completely shift how you view the empty desk in your office.
I love that.
Because we're going to prove that the phrase labor shortage is, well, in many cases, a complete illusion that's hiding a much deeper structural problem.
Right. Though to do that properly, we should probably start by drawing a very clear boundary.
Okay, what kind of boundary?
We have to separate physical realities from structural shifts.
Right.
So if we are talking about a hospital that requires 10 nurses on a specific floor for a night shift, and they only have 6.
That's a real problem.
That is a genuine, undeniable deficit. Caregiving, construction, hospitality, roles requiring a physical body in a specific geographical location at a specific time.
Yeah.
Those shortages are very real. You cannot conceptualize your way out of needing a crane operator on a construction site.
No, you definitely can't. So we aren't arguing that the physical world is suddenly fully staffed. If you are missing a surgeon, you are missing a surgeon.
Exactly. But if we step into the realm of knowledge work services and the daily operations of small to mid-sized organizations, that undeniable math starts to break down a bit.
How so?
Well, in those environments, the phrase not enough people is often a compressed, convenient label. It's in shorthand that executives use because it fits neatly onto a spreadsheet. But it's actually actively obscuring a much more complex transformation happening inside their own walls.
So I want to challenge that just a little bit because the math still feels pretty undeniable even in an office setting.
Okay, lay it on me.
Like, if a marketing team has 10 major campaigns to run and the team shrinks from 10 people to 9 people, the output capacity just dropped by 10%.
Right.
1 unit of labor walked out the door. The math says we are short 1 person.
And that assumption right there is the root of what we can call the one-person illusion.
Your 1-person illusion.
Right. We tend to conflate headcount with organizational capacity, assuming they're a perfect one-to-one match.
Okay.
But work, especially in smaller organizations, isn't a factory conveyor belt of perfectly standardized steps. People are not interchangeable cogs.
They aren't just doing one isolated task over and over.
Far from it.
Yeah.
A single person in a modern office is simultaneously holding multiple roles. They are holding historical memories of the company, nuanced judgments, and incredibly complex internal and external relationships.
So it's way more than just the job description.
Oh, absolutely. So let's map out a gradual discovery of what actually happens when that one person, let's call him Bob.
Good old Bab.
Right. When Bob quits. Step 1, Bob resigns, and the organizational chart drops by 1. The spreadsheet is accurate so far.
The dashboard flashes the red line. We are down 1 Bob.
Exactly. But step 2 is where the reality diverges from the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You didn't just lose Bob's daily quota of coding or copywriting.
Right.
You lost Bob's historical memory of why a certain legacy software patch was applied 3 years ago.
Oh, man, yeah.
You lost his finely tuned relationships with your most difficult vendor. And crucially, you lost his knowledge of how to handle bizarre, undocumented exceptions that the formal system just cannot process.
The weird edge cases.
Yes.
Bob was the guy who knew that if a client from a specific region submitted a form on a Tuesday, the software would glitch, so he got manually push it through.
Exactly. Which leads us to step 3, which is the realization that the internal connection structure of the organization itself has fundamentally changed.
Wow, okay.
The organization hasn't just shrunk by one unit of output. Its entire shape and capability have altered.
You know, it makes me think of that Swiss Army knife analogy we see in the source material.
Oh, that's a great one.
Right, because on paper, you lost a Swiss Army knife, so you went out and you hired a standard high-quality kitchen knife to replace it.
Yep.
The spreadsheet says you lost one blade and you gained one blade. The blade count is completely whole,
The metric is satisfied, everything looks fine.
but the reality is you just lost your screwdriver, your tweezers, and your scissors.
Right.
And frankly, it's even worse than that. It's like losing the tiny little toothpick tucked into the side of the Swiss Army knife.
Oh, totally.
You never even realize you rely on that toothpick until the exact moment you have a piece of food stuck in your teeth, and suddenly your massive, shiny new chef's knife is completely useless to help you.
That visualization captures the invisible loss perfectly. When you replace the Swiss Army knife with the kitchen knife, you start experiencing friction in areas you didn't even realize were being managed.
Yeah.
Suddenly, an invoice gets stuck in processing for 3 weeks, and you're staring at this new hire, realizing that the previous employee was doing an immense amount of invisible, unrecorded work just to keep the gears turning.
So if my Swiss Army knife analogy holds up, it means executives are looking at their dashboards and panicking about entirely the wrong things.
Precisely.
They are measuring the blades, but they are completely blind to the missing tweezers. So how do the sources suggest we actually categorize these things? Because dumping, we need a coder, and we lost our institutional memory into the exact same labor shortage bucket, seems like a recipe for disaster.
It is. It creates a massive diagnostic failure. So the analytical articles suggest separating the things compressed into this single label into 2 distinct categories.
Okay, what are they?
Measurable shortages and invisible shortages. The measurable ones are the metrics we've been talking about, pure headcount,
Right,
or a lack of a specific certification, like needing a licensed CPA,
right.
or geographic mismatches, like needing an engineer in Chicago when the entire available talent pool is down in Austin.
The stuff that is incredibly easy to track on a job board.
Yeah.
You look at the posting, you look at the applications, and you see a physical gap.
Exactly. That's the measurable stuff. And then you have the invisible shortages.
The tweezers.
The tweezers. These are the loss of institutional memory, the loss of independent judgment, internal coordination, and that exception handling we talked about with Bob.
Yeah.
These are incredibly hard to measure because there is no line item on a quarterly budget for friction reduction.
But, okay, I have to push back on this a little bit,
Sure.
on this whole reliance on the invisible stuff. If a company is completely dependent on Bob remembering a weird software glitch from 2019 or Bob knowing how to talk to a grumpy vendor,
Yeah.
doesn't that just mean the company has a horribly designed system?
Well,
I mean, we are in the 21st century. Shouldn't a resilient business rely on written standard operating procedures and automated workflows, not just the tribal knowledge of one guy who happens to have been there for a decade?
it's a fair question, and honestly, this is the exact debate happening in boardrooms right now.
I bet.
Is human intervention merely a symptom of a bad system that needs to be, engineered out of existence?
Right.
And the nuanced answer from the sources is that human involvement is not always an inefficiency.
It really feels like a massive liability, though. I mean, if Bob gets hit by a bus, the system breaks.
It can be a liability if it's purely compensating for broken tools. Like if Bob is spending 3 hours a day manually copy-pasting data because your sales software refuses to talk to your accounting software.
Right? That's terrible.
That is a bad system. That is an inefficiency that absolutely should be automated away. But humans provide something that rigid, hyper-efficient systems simply cannot, which is vital organizational adaptability.
Adaptability meaning they don't just follow the script.
Exactly. They read the context.
Yeah.
The sources highlight several specific human actions that are entirely invisible on a spreadsheet. Think about anomaly detection.
Okay, anomaly detection.
Right. A human can look at a transaction or a client request and sense that it feels wrong.
Just a gut feeling.
Yet, even if every single validation rule and checkbox in the system says it is perfectly fine, a program system only flags the specific parameters it has been explicitly told to flag. But a human has intuition based on environmental context.
Okay, I can see that. It's the difference between a spam filter and a human reading an email.
Oh, that's a great example.
Like the spam filter checks for keywords, right? But you can look at an email from your coworker and immediately know, this doesn't sound like how Sarah types.
Right.
Her tone is completely off. This might be a phishing scam. A system can't really catch that subtle shift in tone, at least not reliably.
Exactly. And beyond just catching errors, humans act as a buffer for change. When a new, bizarre exception occurs in the workflow, a system will either crash or just reject it entirely.
It spits out an error code.
Right. But a human will observe that new exception, they'll handle it manually for a few weeks, and let the situation breathe to see if it's a one-off anomaly or maybe a permanent market trend.
They figure out the new rule before writing it in stone.
Yes. They bridge the gap in understanding between two entirely different departments on the spot. They use empathy and translation skills to prevent a siloed breakdown.
So if you rip the human out of that process, like if you just don't replace Bob because you think the new software suite can handle his daily output,
Yeah.
you aren't just removing an inefficiency, you are ripping out the organization's shock absorbers.
Shock absorbers is a brilliant way to frame it.
You lose the situational judgment and the relationship maintenance that keeps the chassis of the company intact when the road gets bumpy.
Yes.
Without Bob, every tiny pothole in the market, every slight change in customer behavior, it sends a massive destructive jolt right through the entire organization. The system is fast, but it is incredibly brittle.
And understanding that brittleness brings us to a really critical juncture in how companies are currently trying to solve this perceived shortage.
Because everyone is looking for a quick fix.
Right. Because if humans act as these vital shock absorbers, what is the inevitable consequence of trying to replace them with the ultimate speed machine?
Oh, you're talking about artificial intelligence.
Yes, I am.
Every single company complaining about a labor shortage is simultaneously pivoting to AI to bridge the gap.
There is a massive industry-wide temptation to look at an empty desk and say, well, we can't find a human, so let's just deploy a large language model.
Right.
But the sources we are looking at make a very clear, highly counterintuitive point. AI does not automatically solve labor shortages. In many cases, it actively relocates and intensifies them.
Okay, I'm going to need you to walk me through the mechanics of that, because on the surface, that sounds completely backward.
I know it does.
I mean, AI is currently doing an astronomical amount of work. It writes thousands of lines of code, it drafts legal briefs, it generates marketing copy in seconds. If a machine is doing the work of 10 people, how does that not immediately solve a shortage of workers?
Because we have to analyze what AI is actually doing at a structural level. AI is a phenomenal engine of generation. It increases the speed of classification, search, and drafting by orders of magnitude.
It can spit out a 50-page contract draft before I've even finished my morning coffee.
Right. But here is the structural bottleneck.
Yeah.
If one person can now generate 10 times as much work using AI, the structures required for verification, judgment, approval, and actually taking professional responsibility for that work,
Yeah.
those do not automatically accelerate at the same rate.
Oh, wait, I see where this is going.
Yeah.
It's like putting a high-pressure fire hose onto a standard garden sprinkler.
Oh, exactly.
The volume of water coming through the hose is incredible. It's revolutionary. But the nozzle at the end wasn't built for that kind of pressure. The system just violently blows apart.
The volume of generation completely overwhelms the capacity for verification. Or, to use an industrial analogy from the sources, it is like upgrading an automobile factory to produce 1,000 cars an hour.
Okay.
You have the most advanced robotics, slapping the chassis together, painting the doors, dropping in the engines at light speed.
Super efficient.
Right. But you still only have one human inspector standing at the end of the assembly line whose job it is to check the brakes before the cars go to the dealership.
And suddenly that one human inspector is buried under a mountain of cars.
The AI didn't fix the labor shortage. It just exposed where the human judgment was actually required. It shifted the bottleneck further down the pipe.
So instead of a shortage of people who can type fast or draft contracts, we suddenly have a massive glaring shortage of verifiers.
Yes.
We have a shortage of senior people who possess the domain expertise to look at the AI's output, catch the hallucinations, and say, yes, this is accurate, this aligns with our company values, and I will legally stake my professional reputation on this document.
Exactly. The organization is no longer starved for creators. It is starved for approvers. AI reveals a completely different kind of shortage. It doesn't cure the problem. It alters the nature of the deficit.
That is a staggering realization. We've essentially automated the easy part, the sheer volume of output, and accidentally multiplied the hardest part, which is accountability and judgment. So, If AI exposes where human judgment is desperately needed, and organizations still have fewer people than they did 5 years ago,
Right.
how on earth should they approach redesigning the way they work?
Well, the analytical articles point out that when an organization tries to run with fewer people, work redesign typically moves in two very different directions.
Okay.
And the danger is that, on a spreadsheet, both directions look identical. They both look like saving labor or driving efficiency. But the long-term survival of the organization hinges entirely on which path they choose.
Okay, let's break those down. What is the first direction?
The first direction is removing unnecessary human compensation. This is the positive form of efficiency.
Right.
This means finding the places where humans are acting like robots and stopping it.
Yeah.
It's automating the redundant data entry. It's integrating software so a human doesn't have to manually port numbers from one database to another for 3 hours a day.
Taking away the robotic mechanical work so the humans have the bandwidth to actually use their judgment. That makes total sense.
Exactly.
What is the second, more dangerous direction?
The second direction is accidentally removing the useful checking, the dialogue, the anomaly detection, and the slack right along with those repetitive tasks.
Oh, I need to stop you with the word slack.
I knew you would.
In almost every corporate environment I've ever seen, slack is a dirty word.
It really is.
It implies laziness. It means people are sitting around doing nothing while on the company dime.
It is heavily stigmatized, yes.
Yeah.
But in the context of a complex organizational system, slack is simply unallocated time and cognitive space. It is the breathing room within the structure.
Okay, give me a concrete example of how Slack actually benefits a company, rather than just costing them money.
Think about the 5 minutes a manager spends just staring out the window after a stressful meeting, synthesizing a complex problem in their head before making a decision.
Okay.
Or consider a brief, seemingly pointless conversation in the hallway where two people from entirely different departments are just catching up. And they suddenly realize their teams are about to accidentally duplicate a massive, expensive project.
The hallway conversation prevented a $50,000 mistake.
Exactly. Or think about Bob spending 10 extra minutes on the phone chatting with a client about their kid's soccer tournament before getting down to the actual transaction.
People hate that.
They do. But that isn't wasted time. That is relationship maintenance. When you cut too deep in the name of maximum efficiency, you eliminate that unallocated time. Every single minute is optimized for maximum measurable output.
And when you optimize every minute, you aren't just cutting the fat, you're cutting the connective tissue.
Yes, you remove the very mechanisms that make the organization resilient to shocks.
Wow.
If everyone is running at 100% capacity just to hit their daily metrics, there's absolutely no cognitive space left to notice that the entire department is heading in the wrong direction. You have removed the shock absorbers entirely.
So we've walked through the illusions of headcount, the dangers of relying purely on dashboards, the false promise of AI as a magic bullet, and the hidden value of organizational slack.
We've covered a lot.
We really have. So what does this all mean for the listener who has to walk into a strategy meeting tomorrow morning and listen to their boss complain for the 100th time about a labor shortage?
Right.
Are we just doomed to this structural mismatch?
No, but the way out of the anxiety isn't necessarily finding a magical new hiring pipeline to replace Bob with another Bob.
Okay.
Nor is it deploying an AI tool to blindly automate everything Bob touched. The way out requires the exact perspective shift we promised at the beginning of this deep dive.
We have to step away from the dashboard.
We must stop asking how many people are missing. When you ask how many, you remain trapped in the spreadsheet mentality.
Yeah.
You reinforce the illusion that one person equals one unit of standardized work, and you will continually misdiagnose the actual friction in your company.
So what is the diagnostic question we should be asking instead?
The natural next step is to look at the friction and ask, what has actually become insufficient?
What has actually become insufficient?
Right. Has something simply decreased, like needing physical workers to load boxes in a warehouse? Or has the fundamental structure of the team changed?
Have we lost the one person who acted as the translation layer between three highly siloed departments?
Exactly. Have we lost the person who absorbed the weird exceptions so everyone else could focus on the standard process?
It brings us all the way back to that medical analogy. We want the labor shortage to be a clean bone break.
Yeah.
You look at the x-ray, you point at the fracture, you put a cast on it by hiring 3 bodies, and you are cured.
But an organization isn't a simple machine made of perfectly interchangeable, standardized parts. It is a living, breathing web of relationships, historical memories, and contextual judgments.
So the next time you hear the phrase labor shortage, whether it on a financial news network or in your own weekly team meeting, try looking beyond the sheer number of empty desks.
Ask the deeper question.
Ask yourself, what exactly has become insufficient inside this ecosystem? Is it really just a missing body? Or is it a missing memory, a missing relationship, or a missing safety net?
Right.
Once you start looking for those invisible structures, the shock absorbers and the anomaly detectors, the exact same situation begins to look entirely different.
It really does.
You stop trying to replace a Swiss Army knife with a chef's knife, and you start actually rebuilding the capacity of the team.
It completely changes how you value the invisible work happening around you every day.
And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over this week.
Oh, I love these.
So we just spent a lot of time talking about how Slack, that unallocated cognitive time and hallway chatter, is the vital shock absorber of a company.
Yeah.
Right now, there is a massive global push for the 4-day work week.
There is?
Everyone loves the idea. But if a company compresses 5 days of mandatory measurable output into 4 days, what is the first thing that gets squeezed out? Does the 4-day work week accidentally eliminate all the hallway chatter, the relationship building, and the vital invisible work? Because everyone is sprinting just to finish their tasks by Thursday evening.
That's a fascinating point.
Does compressing the schedule destroy the shock absorbers? It is something to watch very closely as office cultures continue to shift. Keep your eyes open for those hidden connections this week.
Absolutely.
Notice the invisible work that happens in the margins, because it might just be the only thing keeping the whole system together.